Welcome to Dual Boot Diaries, the weekly podcast where two longtime Windows users see if they can switch to Linux full-time. I am one of your hosts, Adam.
I'm the other host, Will. Each week we're going to go through our experiences of using Linux daily, with the whole show culminating in us deleting either Windows or Linux from our computers and, then moving on with our lives.
Yeah, and this is episode 3. We've come so far in such little time. This week, I'm talking all about distro hopping, baby. Mm-hmm. And you seem pretty settled into your system.
I think I've gotten my stuff worked out. It feels like just yesterday, or maybe even earlier today, that we posted episode 1, which is actually the case because it was just this morning that we posted episode 1, our time.
It's true.
For you all, that's, 2 weeks in the past, I guess?
Yes. Yeah. So I think we can start off there. So I don't remember if we mentioned it before, but we've been kind of banking some of these episodes just to get the kind of rhythm going, just in case we need to re-record something. But also, I am looking down the barrel of a 2-week-long trip to Germany, and I don't know if I'm going to have time to record any more episodes. So essentially, we are 2 weeks ahead of time. We're probably not going to record for the next 2 weeks, and then at which point we'll be fully caught up. But I do want to say the amount of feedback, all that kind of stuff has just been overwhelming. Like, everybody seems to love what we're doing here. It seems like this might be the year of Linux, Will.
This morning I woke up and I'm not used to thinking about Friday as a new podcast day in my head. So I logged on and I got on YouTube and I was like, oh, hey, something new on the Full Nerd feed. That's weird. And then I get the podcast with us in it. And I opened the comments, which I generally try not to do. And everybody was super nice. Like, I went through and I pulled out a bunch of good suggestions and notes, and everybody, the welcome we've gotten both from the people who are trying this along with us. There were a bunch of people and they were like, hey, I'm 2 weeks in now and things are going great. I love this. And then also the people who are anywhere from I've been using Linux for a year or two to, oh yeah, I've been doing this for a couple of decades. Here's the thing that I've learned the hard way. It's so nice and so welcoming. And between the Discord comments and the YouTube comments, it's been really awesome. So thanks everybody. Thank you so much. Yeah, very heartwarming. I'm just glad that people are willing to go on this journey with us and understand that we're not Linux. We're not Linux experts here. We're just kind of sharing our experiences of going forward. So I did start a new Dual Boot Diaries question channel on our Discord. So if you want to go over to that, there's a link in the description. You can join the Discord. We have a Linux section just for general Linux topics and talking about the podcast as well. People are doing a lot of that, but then also a specific question channel in there. So we will be sprinkling some questions throughout the episode. But so many good comments and things like that. And actually, I want to start off with one of them, which is from somewhere over on Discord, Alexandriite, I think is how I'm going to pronounce it here. Okay. Has 2-part question. Number 1, is the podcast endorsing multi-booting off of the same hardware? Do you believe this is the best way to get the best of both worlds, so Linux and Windows 11? Also, what did you end up having to do setting up the machine to manage the multiple OS installs? So the first one, Will, do you recommend people dual boot? Actually, is this, is the title of our podcast a large recommendation for people dual booting? I think that I would not consider the title of the podcast an endorsement for the act of dual booting. I've been dual booting off and on different OSs since the 90s, right? Like starting with an issue of Boot Magazine. Notice not Dual Boot Magazine, just Boot Magazine.
Man, Dual Boot Magazine, actually. This is a pretty good magazine. Yeah,
they had an alternate OS issue, and they talked about everything from Next and B, which at the time were mostly, OSs that ran on Mac or Mac-ish hardware, to SGI's Erix, which was their Unix variant, all the way through the early Linuxes and stuff like that. And I tried dual booting then, and it is a pain in the butt. It's still kind of a pain in the butt. So yeah, definitely not for everyone, but I think our idea of it's a good delineation point for us on the concept of the show, right? Are we going to do this forever? No. Ultimately, I would like to have one OS on my laptop and one OS on my desktop. Is that practical? Probably not. Like I do some software. I play Fortnite, a couple nights a week with my friends. And realistically, Fortnite is never going to run on Linux in the current time frame. I want to be able to play I want to be able to play Battlefield 6, which uses that secure boot based anti-cheat. I'm not going to be able to play that on Linux for the foreseeable future. So, am I going to have Windows on some or both of my machines for some period of time in the future? Absolutely. Is it going to probably be a VM on my laptop in the not too distant future? Yeah, I think that's probably realistic. Is it going to be a dual boot on Windows? Yeah, almost certainly, unfortunately. So,
also, I think one of the things that we might have talked before, I can't remember, but probably not. Maybe this was in Discord. Is the concept of dual booting? There's a couple ways to go about it. Overall, to me, dual booting means having two OSs on the same machine, not necessarily the same drive.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'll get into when we get into our homework assignment stuff is very much like I have been running into issues with trying to have two different OSs, Windows and Linux, on a single drive. So now I'm like firmly in the camp of like, oh, you know what? I'm going to just keep using, or I'm going to start to use more laptops that have actually two drives in them, dedicate one for each OS.
And then you switch with the bootloader for the BIOS, for the UEFI, right?
Yeah. And I think I still consider that to be dual booting.
That counts.
What about you?
100% that counts. That's totally fair. And like, depending on the BIOS in the laptop, whether you can actually hit that reliably, whether you're pounding F8 as hard as you can when you power up your machine, maybe is not the best experience. I ended up on my laptop, I ended up just mashing the button in the installer. It was like, hey, what bootloader do you want to use? Do you want to use Grub? Do you want to use Refine? Do you want to use like System something else? There were like 3 other options. I read the FAQ on the website for the distro, and Refined seemed like the best choice for me. It's worked pretty well. Although I will say on my desktop right now, I'm sitting here with a computer that has, an 800 gigabyte Linux install that I can't access because Windows overwrote the bootloader, and I'm going to have to, I have to figure that out. So
I think we do need to back this up a little bit for maybe other people who are following along with us or trying this out for the first time. And the two kinds of dual boots, whether you're having both OSs on the same drive or two OSs on their individual drives, the bootloader is the thing that allows you to access either of them, right?
Yeah.
Like there's different kinds, but essentially it's like, hey, your laptop or your desktop, whatever, starts up and is like, hey, where do you want to boot into? They haven't booted anything yet. You got to kind of point them to it. And is there a practical reason to pick one or the other? You mentioned the documentation for Cache told you to do Refine, but
didn't tell me to do Refine. I read the documentation, and it seemed like the one that was the best suited for what I wanted. So I wanted a graphical loader that I could do a little bit of customization on. So it looks, I wanted it to look a little fancy. And it was the one that was UEFI native. There was another one that was UEFI native as well that I didn't get into, but the benefit of Refine for me was that it does auto configuration that works for most PCs. You actually hit one of the edge cases because you have a newer hardware that it doesn't support. The other options required a little bit more configuration. I wanted to have something that's a little more turnkey. Now, as I get further into it, and I'm looking at like my desktop machine where I do update Windows regularly, my laptop, I'm mostly using Linux now and only rarely booting into Windows. On the desktop machine, when I got a Windows update that affected the boot partition, it jacked up the Refine install. So the solution there is that you actually do what's called a boot shim, where you have 2 UEFI boot partitions, and the Linux one just hands off to the Windows one, rather than having both boot loaders in the same boot partition. So
I mean, either way, having separate drives for separate OSs is the cleanest way to go, right?
Yeah, and when you want to get rid of one, it's as easy as either wiping that drive entirely or just popping the SSD out and only having one SSD in the machine. I'm going to have to do some partition resizing and some shenaniganry when the time comes for me.
Yeah. So, there's plenty of other things that we can go to. And I think we'll talk about it as I get into my homework kind of stuff. But yeah, in terms of dual booting, what the series is about. And it also, I guess the last point to make is that the idea is that we'll delete one of those boots and hopefully just go forward into the night, or maybe not. We'll see.
Sail off into the sunset. What's our right model? For what it's worth, I don't think the laptop I'm using has 2 SSD slots, so I'm pretty committed to my single drive life.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious to see how that goes for you. So yeah, we'll see. But let's get into homework.
Yeah,
because we do have some good homework coming up. Mine, it's a lot more high level than yours. Once again, I think I'm really starting to see where our paths are diverging on this on this journey. Like, I'm still getting caught up in like the very basic kind of fundamental stuff of working with Linux, where you're already like off to the races and just like diving deep.
Well, this is a place where me using Linux on servers at the command line servers with no GUI gives me a kind of a head start on you, right? So I've been running Linux off and on for years, and like I've had a Linux machine running in my garage for the last 10 years, pretty much 24/7, right? And that gives me like the underpinnings, the stuff that you're having to learn about how to install packages and all that stuff. I already basically know. Like, I'm having to figure out different package managers based on different distros and stuff like that. But for me, it's all cosmetic changes and annoyances and things that I use on the day-to-day that were not working, like the printer stuff last week. Anyway.
Well, do you want to start, or do you want me to start off?
I can. Why don't I go first? Because my stuff's pretty easy and is fast, I think. Let's see. I had a problem where Wi-Fi wasn't working when I was at the office, which was weird, and it was only happening on cold boots. So if I like restarted the computer, the Wi-Fi wouldn't connect. And it turns out, after digging into this a little bit, that by default, the Wi-Fi password was saved in my KDE wallet, which is part of my desktop environment and is like a system level password manager on Windows or Mac OS or whatever. And when you first log into KDE Plasma, that was the first thing that popped up. A prompt to type in my password there was the first thing that popped up. But all the other windows opened after that, and they were on top of it, and it didn't show up on the taskbar. So I'm noticing a thing with KDE Plasma occasionally that I don't like, where windows are on the desktop but aren't represented on the taskbar at all.
Oh, like you'll get a little pop-up window, but there's nothing in the taskbar to indicate that there's a pop-up window.
Exactly. And I don't know exactly why that happens. It's one of the things I want to dig into more. But when I logged into KDE Wallet, the Wi-Fi client was able to access the password for the Wi-Fi network and connect automatically without any problem. Now, you look perplexed.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. My first question is, why would the password get saved in the wallet? Is it just to try to like keep it more secure?
So I think the idea is by default it saves the stuff that should be secure into a centralized store that's protected by your system level password. Yeah, and I don't know why it wouldn't just log into that automatically when you log into the system. That's a kind of a weird choice. I'm sure there's, as always, as we found, choices. There's always choices. And I think that probably they're opting for the most secure one by default, where I'm fine having a slightly less secure option. Since it's a laptop, when I close it, it signs me, it locks the machine, and I have to sign back in to access it again. I'm fine with KDE Wallet being accessible the entire time I'm logged into the desktop GUI. I also want to solve the problem of why that window didn't show up on the taskbar, because that annoys me. Like, I want all of the windows. I want to be able to hit any window on the computer by hitting Alt-Tab or by mousing over the taskbar and seeing the window previews. So I got to figure that one out as well. And I'll put that in my homework for this week.
Does that mean the KDE wallet isn't an application?
My guess is it means that it uses a lower level window drawing technique, so it's like part of the X window drawing rather than the KDE window drawing, but I don't know for sure.
But you could still like go up to the corner and put the password in again.
So I could log
without having
out
to go into the KDE wallet to do that.
If I deleted the password that was in, because the Wi-Fi client knew that there was a password, but it didn't say, hey, you need to log into KDE Wallet to get access to this. I could delete the existing password and type it in again. I was able to connect.
Oh, okay.
But
that's a pain.
But the solve for this, it turns out, was remarkably easy, because there was a check mark in the Wi-Fi thing. It was like, yo, don't save the passwords in KDE Wallet. Because apparently this is a common problem that everybody has, and the solution is just don't care about Wi-Fi password security. So
interesting.
The solve was easy. Yeah. So so I fixed that. That was no problem.
Okay.
I literally sat kind of perplexed at the desk at the office one day for maybe 20 minutes figuring this out and was kind of annoyed by it.
I thought you just had too many Oreos and that your stomach was upset and you just didn't know what to do.
This was a no Oreo day. We didn't have any Oreos when I figured this out. The other one is the UTC versus local time for the system clock, which I talked a little bit about last week. And the basic cause of this, so the thing I saw was when I'd switch back and forth between Windows and Linux, the clocks would be wrong in each one by, oddly, precisely the difference between Pacific time and UTC, or Pacific Daylight Time and UTC, one way or the other. And the reason is Windows expects the computer clock to be set to local time, and Linux expects the computer clock to be set to UTC, which is universal, Greenwich Mean Time, basically.
Okay.
What happens? Well, there's multiple ways to solve this, as is not unexpected. The easiest thing first, you can just leave it and let it work as is, and when you log into Windows, it'll update on time.windows.com, and it'll fix itself. And on Linux, when you switch over to Linux, it'll update from a time server on the internet, and it'll fix itself. But you'll have like a couple of minutes right when you boot the computer up where the time is off by 9 hours or whatever your offset is. You can also open the terminal in Linux and type time date CTL, all one word, space set -local -RTC space 1. And then it's going to pop up an error message that's kind of scary. It's like, hey, this is going to make some stuff weird and not work right. And when I looked up what that error message worked, the general consensus was, yeah, it's good. This is a scary message, but I've done this for years and it's been fine. Okay. And it worked.
Oh, okay.
So
well, did you have to reboot after doing that, or
nope?
No. Oh,
no.
Okay.
The only time I've had to reboot on Cache so far was when I did the full system update, like the hit Pac-Man and had it download all the newest version of the kernel and all that stuff. Yeah. And even then, it was still like, hey, a reboot's recommended. It didn't say you have to reboot. It didn't force me to reboot. It was just like, it would be a good idea to reboot. And the computer got real slow and janky after that. So I was like, I'm going to reboot. And everything was fine.
I don't know. Like, I'm so used to the Windows side where it's like anytime I load a new video driver or, like a real big Windows update, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to reboot. I don't trust Windows to do that thing for me.
On the Tech Pod this week, we talked about Windows 95, or a couple weeks ago, I guess, for listeners. We talked about Windows 95's 30th birthday. Windows 95 made you reboot for everything. Like, you change your Windows resolution, you should reboot, man.
Really?
Oh,
wow.
It was wild. Yeah, so we live in a magical time now, free of reboots. I also installed some games. I got like some kind of lightweight Steam games, like Kaizen Factory demo working, and The Farmer was replaced, which is like my learning to write Python code rather program. I haven't tried anything 3D yet, but that's kind of more a function of I have better things to play games on than my laptop. So yeah.
Well, but because I haven't got there. Surprise! I guess we're spoiler one of the sections for me. Like I'm not even there yet. I've been hoping to try out some games, but I'm not even there yet. So did you? I know there was a recommendation thing on Cache. We talked about me going through that checklist in a previous episode. Did you go through that recommendation thing, or did you just install Steam and just start playing?
So there's a button in the Welcome to Cache welcome screen app, the thing that pops up when you first install Cache.
Oh, that's what it was.
That says install stuff for games. And there's also a page on the website that says, hey, read this before you hit the install stuff for games button. Hitting the button doesn't tell you to go read that website. It just installs a bunch of stuff. So it installs like current versions of Proton and Steam and all of that stuff. I logged into Steam, downloaded the games, and they just work. So, okay. I mean, in fairness, they're both pretty lightweight, like 2D-ish games. But like sound worked, like everything. It was really flawless. I was pleasantly surprised, just like playing on a Steam Deck, honestly.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So, and then I also got LibreOffice installed finally, which was after I updated Cache, the LibreOffice install just worked, and I don't know what changed. But I'm just going to be happy and smile and move on with that. Sometimes things just work. That
requires a subscription, right?
No.
What? Oh my goodness! You can have like a whole Office suite without a subscription. That just doesn't make sense.
I typed Pacman hyphen capital S LibreOffice and then the actual name of the package. And like 30 seconds later, it was on my computer. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is just here. Now, if I was sending documents to my lawyer, I would not open a Word document in LibreOffice because it will undoubtedly mess up the headings.
Oh,
because like the lawyers have, section 1, subsection B, all that kind of stuff built out. So like I once opened a contract that my lawyer sent me in Google Docs and then sent it back to me. He's like, what the hell did you do with the subheads? And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, all the subheads are messed up. You got to have Word for contract stuff. It's like, okay, fine, whatever. And I bought a copy of Word and used that. But so I wouldn't use LibreOffice for contract stuff, but everything else seems fine.
Okay. Somebody over on Discord actually had mentioned, who's this, Voice Callo, had mentioned OnlyOffice. OnlyOffice.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that before.
Yeah, quote, OnlyOffice offers paid cloud services for business customers. Things like that. So, yeah, interesting. I haven't got there yet either. I know I talked about this before, but one of the hangups for me with Excel is that I share it with other people in our organization. So like if it was just me, it'd probably be easier to transition an Excel document into one of these things. But the hardest part for me trying to figure out is, okay, then how do I share it with people on the team? Because most of the Excel documentation stuff I'm doing, it's being shared with at least a handful of people on our team who need access to it and need to be able to do the same things as I do. So
the benchmark charts that show up in our hardware testing videos are based on really, really kind of complicated spreadsheets. So I've had good luck using those in the web version in Firefox, though, for what it's worth, or Chrome.
Yeah. So. Yeah. That's what I'm doing for the time being. So we'll see. I'll get back to that one. That's one of my long-term stuff.
Have you installed Edge yet? That's my real question.
No, I've not been edging on my Linux machine.
Wow. What have you been up to?
Yeah, so a lot of things, I guess, but really the most thing is distro hopping. Like after I've gotten through the headaches of the HP laptop and all that kind of stuff. Like we talked about this in the last episode, I'm a hardware guy. So like for me, I looked at the shelf of all the laptops that we have, and I actually got some other new laptops in, and I was just sitting here like, okay, well, which one do I want to use? But it was really hard to then figure out, okay, well, which ones had to have the features that I want, but also not too new, but also have dual slots for SSDs and all this kind of stuff. And through the course of that, honestly, I loaded up a ton of distros on Ventoy and was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to try this out and log into different stuff. One of the ones that a lot of people have been mentioning too was Fedora. So, like I was loading up that, I was loading up Mint. I actually got into laptops from Lenovo. I had asked them, I was like, hey, I noticed that you offer like laptops that come preloaded with Linux. Do you mind sending those over? Just because I was curious. The two laptops they sent was the ThinkPad P1 Gen 7. That's a 16-inch laptop with a Meteor Lake CPU and a NVIDIA, I think it's a 3000 Ada generation GPU.
Oh, so it's a discrete GPU. It's like a mobile workstation type thing.
Yeah. Discrete GPU. And it actually came pre-installed with a specific NVIDIA driver that I believe they recommend for that. The other laptop does not have a discrete GPU. It's a T14 Gen 5, also Meteor Lake, and a little bit more of that one's a 14-inch, so a little more thin and light-ish kind of thing. But both of them came pre-installed with Ubuntu. And I had messed around with Ubuntu a little bit here and there, but for the most part, this was the first time I was really messing around with Ubuntu. And spoilers, I guess another side tangent, I actually really like Ubuntu. Something about the user interface. I know it's GNOME. I know that for sure, but it's also like kind of feels different than the GNOME that I'm used to in System 76 Pop OS. And some of the changes made in there are smart. Also, you've got more configuration options in the preferences that you can mess with than Pop OS by default. So I was playing around with that. I guess I should also message in the office. My fallback has been using that System 76 laptop. Yeah. So essentially, like, and that one does have. They recommended early on. You know, I'd reached out, asked, oh, hey, how do you recommend I install Windows? I loaded Windows on a separate drive, and it's been rock solid.
It's the machine that's been on the desk during Full Nerds and while we're doing work basically all week. It seems like.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't want to mess with it too much, because I want that one to just be the one that I'm using. So I haven't really experimented with it. I've just been using it. It's been a great workhorse kind of system for that. But you know, like I said, for a lot of reasons, I've just been distro hopping, looking at different hardware. Obviously, the cache thing has just been a nightmare on this Strix laptop. Just to be honest, I continue to have problems dual booting off of the same drive there, and also I think the fact that it's newer hardware. Also, this HP ZBook Ultra G1A with the Strix Halo chip in there is the Pro version, and so it has a lot of lockdown stuff in the BIOS, like Sure Start. Other than Secure Boot, you know, it has their own protections and stuff in there. So I think I'm really hitting some of those walls.
It had BIOS settings that protect the Secure Boot from being changed, and it's for a managed install. Maybe I should take that laptop and work on it and see if I can get it up and going. Because I felt like I was getting close and then ran out of time the other day. I think the HPs that ship with the Ubuntu installs are really interesting. Lenovo, sorry. Yep. That ship with the Ubuntu installs are really interesting, and I like. There's nothing wrong with Ubuntu. In fact, actually, one of the things we're going to talk about today is the kind of different kind of update philosophies for different distros, and whether they're like rolling distros or LTS distros or kind of in between. And I'm curious. Have you tried other environments beside GNOME and KDE Plasma now? And Pop! OS is or Mint. You tried too, right?
Yeah, I tried Mint, Cinnamon,
which is Cinnamon.
So so I guess I think that's it. I remember when the first time I got cache on that HP laptop and it totally broke was because I loaded a bunch of other different desktop environments. It
says not to do that, dude.
I know, but in the installation process, there's check marks. You know,
they should change that to a radio button. That is absolutely
So I guess I should back up and say the reason why I'm doing all this distro hopping is mostly for look and feel. Like, yes, hardware support is a part of it, which we'll talk about because I have upcoming travel. But for me, I think the thing that I've been gravitating towards is that, hey, I want the look and the feel and the way that the workflow happens in the OS to kind of dictate which OS I go to. I know that's probably not the right way to do it. Everyone keeps telling me, oh, you pick the distro based on your use case. But for the most part, my use case is pretty generic. Like, other than the things that I'm struggling to get off of Windows, like Adobe apps and Excel, other than that, I'm doing pretty basic stuff, and it's mostly web browser kind of things. So like I'm not a power user, and at this point, I'm also not trying to get real deep into gaming like a lot of people either. So yeah, look and feel has been kind of the top priority for me. And yeah, like honestly, like Ubuntu, it just really tickles my brain in the right way. I don't know why. Maybe it is a Mac thing. Maybe I have my old Mac days, lingering in the back of my mind, and I'm like, ooh, this kind of feels like a Mac. I don't know.
I don't know. You talking about GNOME has me looking at it, and I investigated how you transition from one desktop to another on an existing install. And I very quickly decided that I didn't want to risk breaking the thing that's working for me right now. So I think what I'm going to do is when I fix the Windows, my desktop machine, I'm going to probably put GNOME on the desktop machine and kind of so that I have KDE on the laptop and GNOME on the desktop. And maybe before I settle on that fully, I might actually do some live install touristing and see what other options are out there and see if I love Cinnamon or, one of the, there's Halide or there's 50 million different things that they all have cool names. So, and really good screenshots on their web pages, it turns out.
Yeah. And I guess that's the thing too. Like now that I feel like I really like the look and feel of GNOME on YouTube on Ubuntu. I do wonder, is there a way to then say, you know what, but I actually want to use the kernel optimization stuff as a cache. You know, can I get that same look and feel in a desktop environment, but use cache as the actual distribution? I'm curious, but I mean,
you can
either way.
Yeah. This is the beautiful thing about choice is you can absolutely do any of that. It's just how much time do you want to spend futzing with it to get it to work, and then how hard is it going to be to keep it running and maintained and updated as the time goes on? And the answer is, I think probably not very. But like the interesting thing about Ubuntu is that they seem to do, like, if they have different packaged versions of the installer for different desktop environments. So where Cache has a radio box or a checkbox that says, hey, which desktop environments do you want to install? Ubuntu just does, there's a cinnamon version of Ubuntu, and Fedora does kind of the same stuff with their different installs, it seems like. So anyway, should we move on over into topics? Because I feel like, we're talking about rolling versus LTS distros right now is kind of where we're getting to.
Yeah, I guess the last thing I do want to cover for my homework is the travel. So this is the other reason why I've been doing a ton of distro hopping, which I'll say a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I love distro hopping. Like it like it has actually been pretty fun to be like, ooh, let's download this one, try it out. With Ventoy, you just boot live into it and you try it out and you're like, oh, okay, nah, I'm good. Or wow, I really like this.
I love this transition from the first episode we recorded to now, where you're like, this seems like too much. Where we were talking about desktop environments, like, this is too much choice, and now two weeks later, you're like, 3 weeks later, you're like, yeah, let's go. Give me all the choice. It's good.
I kid you not. Like I'm sitting here sometimes thinking like, ooh, I saw a comment of somebody saying a distro that I hadn't heard of yet. I wonder what that's like. Oh, okay. Well, I can just throw it on Ventoy and check it out.
Ventoy makes it
so many.
Ventoy makes it real easy, which is nice too, because then you just copy that ISO over and boot off the thumb drive, and you're good to go.
Hell yeah! But what's not easy has been the travel stuff. So I do have travel coming up. I've mentioned this. I'm going to Germany, covering IFA, which is like a CES for Europe. It's kind of the easiest way to talk about it. And then I'm going down to Munich to meet with our colleagues who work out there. And for me, I'm like, okay, well, I need to take a laptop that is going to really work for me, and that like I can't have it break. Or if it breaks, in the Linux side, whatever, I'm just going to jettison that overboard because I can rely on Windows. So here, like I've been running into problems because I want to use like the newest and latest, greatest hardware. Like I really wanted to take that HP ZBook, but man, I was just like, at some point I was like, even if I got it stable before I left, I can't rely on it being stable going forward. And I just can't have that. So I ended up having a laptop. So this is a Samsung Galaxy Book 5 Pro. So it's Lunar Lake based. I had actually already been using this for past trade shows. I believe I brought it to Computex a couple months ago and then CES earlier this year. So I already had everything set up on the Windows side that I needed to. And luckily, it actually has support for 2 SSDs. So I put a second SSD in there, and I was like, oh, okay, well, if this second SSD with Linux is going to break, whatever, who cares? I have Windows in this environment, and it's going to work out for me. I first loaded Ubuntu on there because I've been kind of on this Ubuntu train. And then I asked you, I was like, hey, I know there's problems with running, multiple distros and Windows 11 on the same drive, but what about putting multiple distros on the same Linux drive? Like if I had two SSDs, and you seemed to indicate that was not going to be a problem, right?
That's my understanding, yeah. Because like the problem that comes with the big problem that comes up with multiple, with Windows and Linux booting on the same drive is that Windows is a bad neighbor, right? So Windows will do an update occasionally and wipe out your bootloaders that live in your UEFI boot partition that Windows uses. The other thing is that by default, I think Windows often doesn't make the UEFI boot partition large enough to really have multiple because you have to put the kernel in there, right? So you dump a version of a bootstrap for the kernel into that UEFI partition. If it's only 128 megabytes, I think it's not big enough for you to have like 3 Linux bootloaders or whatever. Is my understanding. Now please tell me if I'm wrong in the comments. I'm sure people will.
Yeah, and I definitely think that's what happened with the HP laptop.
Yeah.
Is that just that UEFI is just effed up right now.
That's what happened with my desktop. That's what Windows did to my desktop too. So it happens.
So luckily, I settled on an option. It took me a while. I was really stressing of like which laptop do I want to bring. And I'll say, as much as I love that System 76 laptop, it has been super stable. The actual hardware itself is not what I need at a trade show. I need something thinner and lighter, something that has a more color accurate screen and bigger, and preferably for me a number pad, all that kind of stuff. So I'm just leaving the System 76 laptop at home. So that's why I didn't just bring that one. Now,
that was your plan B, though, right? Like that was
my plan B.
Yeah,
that was my plan B. Yeah. Also, the only thing that I ran into loading Ubuntu on this Samsung laptop that I had a problem off the bat is that the speakers aren't working.
What?
So I Googled it, and this seems to be a very common problem with like Ubuntu or maybe other kernels as well on these Samsung laptops going back a couple generations. I've seen a lot of people complain and be like, hey, the hardware's there. I see it in the system settings, like the drop down, mentions it's there. I see the little volume indicator that something's playing, but something's happening in between that and connecting with the actual speakers themselves so that it's just not outputting volume, which for the trip, that's okay. The Windows side still plays volume, but honestly, the thing I do most is plug headphones into it, and I tried that, and that works completely fine.
Oh, okay.
So that's fine. It's going to work for it. That's the only weird thing. And I did try to do a couple fixes that people had mentioned, but yeah, I'm curious if anybody has that laptop and fixed it. Please get in the comments or go over to Discord and talk about it, because it seems to be something that is just
specific
an
to those
inherent
models.
problem with these Samsung laptops. So
one of the things I'm finding is that the decline of Google search results is really impacting my ability to use Linux in a way that I wasn't expecting, right?
Yeah.
And I'm finding that really hyper specific searches are sometimes useful, except I have to leave the OS out. So like I have to leave the distro out. So I have to leave cache out. So I search for Linux or I search for Arch and I search for the specific problem I'm having. I'm often finding results that way, whereas just searching for Samsung Linux speaker might not give me what I'm looking for. So like the answers are probably out there, and they're probably buried in some subreddit, 15 layers deep.
For sure. The last point for travel real quick is that a lot of people have mentioned this, and don't worry, I have my Ventoy thumb drive. I will be loading up, I have all my distros loaded up here, so I'm going to be playing around with it during the trip. But luckily, I have that drive with Windows 11 on it, and that's just my complete fallback no matter what happens.
Do you have a little screwdriver so you can pull the Linux SSD out entirely if you need to?
I should definitely pack that. Yeah, because these Samsung screws are very particular. So
yeah. Not one that's going to be a weapon that the TSA is going to take when you go through customs. So
yeah, hopefully not. And the last pick for the travel stuff was, how stable of an environment do I want? And this is something I've definitely been getting into, and you know more about, like rolling versus LTS, which Ubuntu actually has both. But like some distros, I feel like Cashy is just a rolling distro, right?
Yeah. So we talked about this a little bit last week, and Juan Garcia over on YouTube called out. I was getting ready to do the research on this, and then I was reading the comments, and they gave a fantastic answer for this. It's better than I could have summed it up, I think. So thanks, Juan. The thing they say is, the way I like to think about the different kinds of distros, and this is in terms of like a release philosophy for the distro, is that there are rolling release distros, point release distros, and LTS distros. With rolling, you get software updates right away, right? As they come in, you hit the update button and you're gonna get the new stuff as it rolls in. With point releases, you typically get bug fixes and security updates right away, but major updates every 6 months. So that's like, think about like kernel level updates for new hardware and stuff like that will come every few months. LTS is similar to point releases, except for the major updates are every 2 to 3 years. So for example, like on my server, I run an LTS update, right? Which is, I want to have security updates regularly, right? Because the security updates are still going to come in as they come. But the major changes, the things that are likely to break, are only every few years, and you can stay on those long-term support updates for a long time and expect to get security updates for those particular versions for a really long time. So, okay, this is back to what Juan was saying. Rolling distros are best for people playing new games with new hardware. Point distros are pretty okay, but may not work with all new games or hardware. And LTS distros are terrible with new games and hardware unless you update the kernel and drivers by yourself. That's kind of advanced. LTS distros' strength is stability. Rolling is for testing new hardware and software, and point releases are nice middle ground. Not too old, but not too new. So, and then somebody else tagged on later and said LTS technically picks a stable version to anchor against and then updates that every 2-ish years. So, anyway, now this is, again, your use is going to change based on how you're using your computer and what your goal is. Like I said, for my server, I pick an LTS update because I don't want to do an update to get security patches and then suddenly have some key thing break Docker or something and all my Plex servers and stuff go down. For a laptop where I'm using brand new hardware, I might want a rolling update like for your G1A laptop, you might want a rolling distro right now, and then think about transitioning over to something that's more stable as that hardware ages into the point release distros, right?
Which I did find out through research that laptop has actually been qualified to work with Ubuntu, even the LTS version, which I hadn't got around to loading on there. If I would have known that from the beginning, oh boy, that would have been great. But yeah,
I mean, live and learn. Now the downside of that stuff is that sometimes on the LTS versions, getting Proton and stuff like that might be trickier because they might it might want a newer version of the kernel or something than you have otherwise. Somebody else pointed out in that comment thread that when you're running the rolling distros, for example, like Arch is a rolling distro and famously is a pain in the butt to keep running because they'll do things like change the window renderer from X to Wayland, and Pacman, the package manager, won't know which window manager you're using. So when it changes the main line over, you're going to get a machine that won't boot to the desktop, and then you have to do some command line business to manually switch it over so that it's back up and running, which like I'm pretty comfortable with. I feel like it might take me a minute to figure that out, but I'll get there. I feel like that's probably a bad choice for you. So I think you should be definitely looking at point release distros. And the interesting thing about Ubuntu is they have both point release distros and long-term support distros. So like long-term support versions. So
yeah. Also, so from what I understand, I guess I should have got a quote from System 76 directly, but Pop! OS is built off of the Ubuntu LTS version, but they do their own enhancements off of it. It's not a rolling distro, but it has a newer kernel. I did go and do the command to look it up. So essentially it's that, would you call that middle ground?
Point releases.
Point releases. Yeah. So essentially it's building off of the LTS version and having point releases on it. Which I'm okay, I think, with the point release stuff. And yeah, like the whole rolling thing definitely seems to scare me at this point.
I feel like the rolling, having in the old days lived on Debian SID, which is their rolling testing build, I have been bitten by that multiple times. And for Ubuntu specifically, their LTSs are maintained for 5 years of standard supports and 5 years of I think security updates. So beyond that first 5 years. So like it's a long time. Like if you're like, I don't have a lot of 10-year-old machines in the house, right? If you think about it. So anyway, think about that as you're picking your distros. I'm going to stay on Cashy because I like living dangerously. I might actually do something else on the desktop though, because the desktop hardware is a little bit, it's same vintage, I guess, but it's a little more straightforward, like a more common build than say a laptop.
Yeah.
The other thing I kind of wanted to talk about this week is that the Linux laptop is starting to feel like home. And when I come into my office at home and I sit down in front of the Windows desktop, I'm like, oh, this feels bad. I want to go back. Where's my Linux stuff at? I want my widgets on my desktop. I want to see how Linux handles multiple monitors. I want to, get my weird hardware running. I want to figure out how I can get my Stream Decks up and running with BitFocus Companion and that kind of stuff, and get the same functionality that I have now. So
that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, but you're still mostly using the laptop at work, or are you also using it at home?
So it's weird because this last couple of weeks I've noticed that when I need to do some computer stuff, like if I'm sitting down to write, I often will grab generally speaking, I like writing on the laptop instead of the desktop because the desktop is chock full of distractions.
True.
And having one monitor and making my writing surface full screen or splitting it with a browser if I'm doing research means that I'm a little inherently more focused, just because sometimes small screen better than big screen, it turns out. But yeah, I've been picking up the Linux machine to do like light work at home. I'm not video editing on the Linux machine or anything crazy like that, but yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I still like anytime I'm using Windows 11, that still feels like home to me. Like the Linux thing feels like I'm going out on a field trip and being like, ooh, cool, I'm playing on this new playground. Okay, let's go home to Windows 11.
Well, I think the difference is that when I'm sitting like at the office, so 2 or 3 days a week, I'm in the office with you. We're shooting videos and doing stuff. And like, while we're not shooting videos, I'm doing research for other stuff, or I'm answering questions on Discord, or, looking up stuff for future topics or whatever. And I've spent a lot of time on the laptop in the last couple of weeks because we've been doing a lot of stuff. So I don't know. It's weird. I didn't expect that to happen quite this quickly. So it's a nice change. There's still a bunch of little things that annoy me about the Linux machine, which is why I'm kind of eyeballing GNOME and other things. So anyway.
Well, speaking of GNOME, I noticed something. I do want to mention this before we get to our homework for next week, or the next couple weeks, as it were. So GNOME, right? I think we finally figured it out. It's pronounced GNOME.
Yeah.
We might say GNOME just to piss people off.
I'm just going to change every other episode so that people write letters in angry. We got to keep those comments coming.
Yeah. So GNOME is I think it was built off of GUNI. So yeah, right? Is that what I read?
That I don't know.
Yeah.
I believe you though.
Yeah. I don't remember where I got that. But it's a GUI. So, right?
Yeah.
GNOME, GUI. And then I realized, just like GIF, because that is a graphic user interface, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's saying genome or GUI. It's GIF because it's a G, right?
No, that's wrong though.
And so Linux people have a right. Linux people understand that it's called
getting
GIF.
baited into this. This is a trap. Tacos are not sandwiches. I'm just going to get that out there too while we're at it.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
I'm not. I plead the fifth.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. I luckily, thank you, Linux people. You've taught me the one true way to say GIF. Actually, I already knew. It's
you mean
GIF.
GIF, I think, is what you're
no.
saying. Yeah.
So you should say GUI or genome.
Well, go hop on your giraffe and ride out of here, Adam.
Okay. All right. Homework for next week.
Well, hold on. We had some notes from listeners from last week's episodes too that I want to hit.
Yeah.
YouTube listener L Ritzdorf, which is a pretty good handle, had a tip on diagnosing the crashes that I was having that I talked about last week's episode, or the episode 1 rather. Yep. They said a good starting point is journal CTL -B -1, which will show you system level logs from the previous boot. You can use -2 for 2 boots ago, and so on and so on. That'll include messages from the kernel, systemd service orchestrator, and services themselves, and it's labeled in a pretty clear way to be human readable. In your case, obviously, messages toward the end of the log will be more relevant. So when I was having those hard crashes that just completely locked up the machine, that would be a good approach. And I hadn't actually found that anywhere else. So thank you so much for sending that in. Hopefully it won't come up again, but if it does, I'm prepared.
Nice.
And then I think I'm going to save this other one. We had a lot of talk about controllers because we kind of touched on that last week. But since neither of us really played any controller games this week, I'll hold that. The TLDR seems to be that people like PlayStation controllers, but everything just kind of works. Yeah. So anyway, you want to talk about homework?
Yeah, so homework. I mean, essentially, like I said at the top of the show, I'm going to be traveling for 2 weeks, so our homework is going to span 2 weeks. My homework's pretty easy. I want to see if I can try to use Linux at all during my high stress work trip. Like I need the computer to work. I don't want to have to like be messing around, futzing around with something. So I'm going to try to use it. But if anything breaks, I'm just going straight back to Windows 11. So like, yeah, I'm curious to see how that workflow is. Or, I mean, because the hard part thing is on a lot of these trips, I am using a lot of Photoshop.
Yeah.
So like, will I even want to boot into Linux? Is it just easier if I just stay in Windows the whole time? I'm very, very curious to see how that's going to go. This is going to be the first like real major test for me is like, am I comfortable enough to do a lot of work in Linux?
I mean, I wish you had another week or two. I wish we had gotten one of those machines up and running. I mean, I feel like you've had the System 76 machine going reliably. I wish we had another laptop that you'd spent some real time with over the last week, because I think you'd be in a much better spot for this trip. But we'll see how it goes. This is why we do the podcast, right?
Well, I mean, and one of the things that I haven't had a chance to set up, but a lot of people are talking about like, hey, virtualizing Windows or virtualizing Linux on the other side, like might be something that I can get around. I have not tried to do that. I know there's a ton of different ways to set that up, but you know, like if really all I need is Photoshop and Excel, like virtualizing Windows might be the best way to do it rather than having to do the whole dual boot thing. But yeah, I don't feel comfortable in setting that up. I don't feel comfortable testing that on the road or anything. So yeah.
Yeah, you want to test that before you leave, not while you're on your. I mean, look, you'll have a long plane ride there. You could download your Windows install, get VirtualBox on this machine, just let her rip on the plane. It'll be fun.
Yeah, well, and once again, the fact that I have 2 SSDs on here, I feel a lot better to mess around on the Linux side and try to break something, because whatever, worst case, it doesn't matter.
Hold on. Have you been trying to break stuff this whole time? Is that what you've been doing?
Okay. I haven't been trying to break stuff, but I know that I'm going to be doing a lot of reinstalling. I have not like settled on one thing. So I definitely have been, a little loosey-goosey and being like, what's the worst that can happen?
I was going to say maybe trying to not break stuff would be a better approach to this. I mean, it does make it for a good podcast, I guess.
Not yet. Yeah. Well, but who knows? Who knows? I'm not there yet. I guess we'll see. Okay. Yeah. So my homework is mainly just to get through that. Hopefully, maybe do a little bit of light gaming as well. Okay. But I am also bringing my a handheld that's running SteamOS. So I guess technically I will be using Linux on there.
Well, so I would look, if you want to get it, you could kill 2 birds with one stone. Get the farmer was replaced. Learn a little bit of Python. Play a little bit of games. You get everything going at once. The other option, that Kaizen Factory Story game I played is fabulous for a laptop. It's a really good laptop game. And then the other one that I tried was Is This Seat Taken, which is a puzzly game. It's like a logic puzzle game that I feel like I might have. They talked about it on the Nextlander podcast last week or the week before. But I had played it during the Next Fest, the demo during the Next Fest. So it's out in full now. It's like you're sitting on a bus. You have little guys. They're sitting on bus seats and movie theater seats. And like they all have preferences about how close they are from the screen and like whether they want to steal people's popcorn. Oh,
I do remember that people talking about this.
It's quite good.
Yeah. Like a logic puzzle. And,
it's like a good... It would be a good airplane game in terms of like you may not even need to put your headphones on to play. You can just chill out and have music or going or whatever. Anyway, my homework, I have a couple of little things. 59 Smoke posted in Discord that you can use Nano with mouse controls if you set up Nano right in your terminal.
What's Nano? Nano.
So there's a bazillion different text editors for Linux. Nano is one of the more user-friendly options. It lives you can use it in the terminal. So it's a command line based tool and you can like move up and down and page through just like you would in a normal word processor. But typically when you're in like a terminal, you don't have access to the mouse. the fact that you can access the mouse in Nano in the terminal sounds freaking rad. So I'm going to try that.
Why would you want a text editor in the terminal?
Well, sometimes if your desktop GUI doesn't open, then you might want something to change configuration files. But also, like, there's no reason. Like, I use, even on desktop, even on Windows, like I use Control and Shift and Alt and page up and page down and home and end and all those buttons to move through my text documents without having to touch the mouse, just because I have RSI problems, and the less time I spend using the mouse, the better off I am, which I realize is kind of counter to the, hey, I want to get mouse working in Nano. But the point is, it's nice to have the option occasionally. I want to try it. So yeah, so having a text mode command text editor, a command line text mode text editor is very convenient. Having it work with the mouse controls in a terminal running inside the GUI sounds awesome. I'm going to try that. Nice. I also want to figure out a good solution for Dropbox, because I've been using the web client on my laptop, which stinks. I want to see, like, ideally on Windows, I have it do like the ghost files thing, so it has all my files there, but it only downloads them when I need them. Ideally, I'd be able to do that. I know I can do that with rclone, I believe, which is a kind of command line tool that basically just makes a folder in your file system that it connects to your different cloud storages, whether it's Google Drive or Dropbox or Box, or even you can do S3 buckets and Backblaze buckets and stuff like that. But I'll look into that. YouTube user Barangal suggested that Cache comes with Paru, which is a Pacman fork for the Arch Linux user repository access. So it looks like Dropbox is in there. I just haven't had time to install it yet. So I'll try that and let you know how that goes. And then you got me thirsty for other desktop environments. So I'm going to try GNOME. I have 3 PCs that I use on the reg. Like, I have my laptop, I have my desktop at home, and then I have the stream machine that I use that runs my Twitch streams and stuff like that. And I'm kind of eyeing that Twitch stream machine because I don't do anything on it except for run OBS and sometimes Discord, and that's pretty much it. And I can remote control OBS from a Stream Deck on my main desktop PC and my Windows PC. And I'm kind of looking at it and I'm like, if I can figure out the video capture stuff, because that's the tricky bit, right? Is that I have to be able to pipe HDMI from my main PC over to that machine. If I can figure that part out, then that's a candidate for not having to have a Windows install on and just treating it like an appliance.
And
it's pretty compelling.
That is an interesting use case.
Yeah. We have a stream machine set up in the office at work. It's the one that Willis uses to produce like the Full Nerd and our build live streams. And we did a few weeks ago now for listeners, we built in that teenage engineering plastic case, which people should go watch that video if they're interested in that. It was a fun build. It's weird.
Oh, it was fun. Yeah.
But I've been experimenting with that a little bit at home running Windows to see if I can do an ITX stream capture setup, and maybe Linux is the way to go on that. I think I'm interested because OBS open source, it runs great on Linux. All the video encoding stuff is well supported on Linux now, so maybe I'll give it a try. And
you have older hardware in there too, right?
I have older hardware in my machine. I have a 9900K in my machine at home. I am so we'll see how it goes. I'll report back.
Interesting.
The older hardware, my hunch, I'm going to see. I have questions about capture card support in Linux in general, because that's a space that I'm worried there's going to be light hardware support on. But we'll see how it goes. I'll report back next week.
Who knows? Maybe there's a whole underground scene of streamers that use Linux that are going to get into our comments and
let me know how it goes. Yeah. And then the last thing is I want to figure out why that KDE wallet window doesn't pop up a taskbar on a taskbar note. So that's it, I guess.
Yeah. That's another episode in the books. Once again, floored by the support.
Yeah.
I'm still so excited to go on this journey. Like I feel like like, yes, I've run into a lot of stumbles and roadblocks, but like, I feel like empowered.
Do you feel like you're learning
stronger than ever? Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I feel like I'm learning something new every day still.
And not even just like small little things. Like, I feel like just learning how to be more comfortable in a terminal is something that I've appreciated.
Well, for me, it feels like everyone, this doesn't happen all that often in stuff that you're super familiar with, but like every week I'm learning something new that doesn't just open like a little bit of knowledge. It opens like a whole big world of new stuff to learn about. And that doesn't happen for me a lot on computers, on Windows these days, right? I understand a lot about how Windows works and how hardware works on Windows and all that. And being able to dig into this on the Linux side is really exciting. So I'm enjoying the heck out of it.
Yeah. Getting out of our comfort zone. I think there definitely is something to be said about that. Like, a lot of people, I have seen a lot of comments of people being like, well, why would I want to try Linux? And I'm like, well, I mean, if anything, why not? You know, like, if you have the ability to, it might get you outside of your comfort zone, and like me, might get you comfortable doing something that you just never thought of before. This reminds me of the same kind of feelings I had when a couple years ago I switched from Premiere Pro to DaVinci Resolve.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it was some teething pains to get up and running and figuring out, okay, well, I used to do it this way here. How do I do it over here? But once I started doing that and getting out of my comfort zone, like, it made me a better video editor, because I was just so used to the things I was doing. And, you know, like, this just, it forces you out of your comfort zone in a way that it just, yeah.
So
makes you better.
When you did that, when you made that change, did you do the setting that was like, hey, I want to use my Premiere Pro shortcuts in DaVinci, or did you just learn all the new stuff for DaVinci? Do you remember?
So I started to, but there were actually, even though you could pick, hey, use the Premiere Pro shortcuts, it wasn't completely one-to-one. And there was other things that, like, I had to custom map anyway. And I was like, you know what? I am going to try to learn the native keyboard commands, which I did, to the point where then I would go back to Premiere and be like, oh crap, I don't remember how to do this. Or
yeah.
So it had worked. I definitely ripped that Band-Aid off, because I knew I kind of wanted to try to do that.
The thing I'm kind of wondering about where I am now is if there's a hybrid model for me that works, where I end up leaving Windows on my desktop, or doing one of the, like, there's a bunch of weird stuff you can do with VMs where you pass through you have 2G, you know, you use your discrete graphics for the Windows VM pass through on a desktop, and then you use the built-in, if you have an AMD chip or an Intel chip with integrated graphics, you use that for the Linux desktop, and you end up with like full speed Windows gaming in Windows for those 3 games that won't run on Linux. And but so I don't know. Like, I wonder if there's a hybrid world where I end up with a laptop that's a Linux laptop and my desktop is mostly Windows still, or something like that. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, yeah. Thanks everybody for joining the journey. The journey continues. Please hit us up. Once again, we're reading all the comments. If you want to email us, you can email thefullnerd@PCWorld.com. And if you want to come chat with us on Discord, there's a link down in the description to go over to the Full Nerd Discord with a Linux channel in there, but then also a Dual Boot Diaries question channel if you have any questions for us. But yeah, so thanks to everybody. Everybody's been super cool. Thank you, Will, for helping me out. You've definitely been patient.
Oh, man, it's been awesome.
As I'm ripping my hair.
I love it. I love helping. I love figuring it out. My favorite comments, honestly, I really appreciate the help we've gotten from people who actually know what they're doing. But I love the comments that are like, hey, you guys inspired me to put Linux Mint on my laptop, and it's going awesome so far. I've had to boot into Windows twice in the last 2 weeks. It's super cool that, like, people are doing this along with us. That's my favorite part of the whole thing. So thanks everybody for the support, and thanks Adam for asking me to do this. This has been fun. Wraps
up episode 3. So check back next week for more Dual Boot Diaries. Bye-bye.